YouTube, welcome to the TMBK channel. My name is Ty, and with the events that happened yesterday at San Diego Comic-Con in Hall H, we finally got the Symbiote relationships panel with the Insomniac crew. And along with that panel, they finally dropped a story trailer for Marvel Spider-Man 2. And to everybody that was there and got the experience in person, I am very jealous of you. But PlayStation did end up dropping the story trailer on their YouTube channel after the panel ended. So for the format of this video, we're going to be breaking down this trailer piece by piece, scene by scene, and also mention some of the details they mentioned in the San Diego Comic-Con panel. So make sure you got your snacks and your drinks and you relax, because we're gonna be here for some time. And if you're as excited as I am for this game, make sure you hit that like button down there and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. So let's get straight into this trailer. So within this very first scene that they show us, you see we got Harry Osborn on the left, who is doing better than ever, which is great to see. And we got Peter here on the right. And before we even get into what they're talking about, as you can see, their location, they're at Midtown High. And if you didn't notice, this is the high school they attended in their high school years. And this is basically the place where they met and they became best friends. So it's good to see that they're catching up in this particular spot, and I love that. And pretty much in this conversation, Harry is catching up with Peter, and he's letting him know how the last 10 years of his life has been dealing with this illness he's had. And for the people that don't know, the illness that he has is actually a genetic illness, and he basically just expresses to Peter how it's just a miracle that he's here. And then he goes on to tell Peter that they're going to heal the world, because I'm pretty sure in this conversation Harry ends up talking a lot about his mom and also him because he's dealing with this illness. And that also leads Peter to talk about how his aunt May died in the first game. And the actor that's actually playing Harry Osborn is none other than Graham Phillips, which you can also know him as Ben Tennyson from the Ben 10 Race Against Time film series. And we can also see right here the Peter face even got an update. As you can see, his hair is a little bit different. He looks a bit more mature. As you can tell, it's just a major step up from the previous games because this game is built for the PS5. And let me just say, Insomniac is just making all the magic happen. So I love the way this game looks right here. And then we're going straight into the second scene with Peter and Miles. And as you can see, they're jumping off into action. And you can actually tell they're in Brooklyn, because as they jump off the building and the camera follows them, you can see they're going over a high school. And this high school is none other than the high school that Miles actually attended, which is Brooklyn Vicious Academy. And the way you can tell this is by the colors of the school. If you look at the basketball court and the bleachers, they're blue and yellow. And also before they jump off the building, you guys see the Brooklyn Bridge back there. Then we just get these nice overview shots of the city, and it looks amazing. This game is going to look crazy when it's in our hands October 20th. Then in this third scene right here, we get our first overview shot of Coney Island. We're here at the fairgrounds, and there's actually a couple Easter eggs here related to some iconic Spider-Man villains. For one, you can see the Ferris wheel back there. It says Big Wheel, which is a nod to Big Wheel himself. And you can also see on the right here, you see the Hydro bench, which I'm pretty sure is an Easter egg to Hydro Man. Then we get our first look at Mary Jane and Miles Morales. And honestly, the more I look at this game, the more I look at the character Miles, the more I'm thinking, wow, this is really the PS5. This is really a PS5 exclusive right here, because the face models, the physics, they all look great. Me personally, my favorite upgrade that I've seen so far is Mary Jane. Now as for Miles Morales, he looks great as well. I can tell he had a little growth spurt. He's about the same height as Peter now. And as you can see, my boy got a new haircut. Now for me, I personally don't have a problem with it. I actually like the way it looks. But anyways, Peter is actually introducing Harry to Genki and Miles right here. And after that small little introduction, Miles goes on to mention Peter's new job, to which we could assume that Peter actually ended up becoming the teacher, because Miles actually recommended him to become a teacher in the previous game, Spider-Man Miles Morales. But however, I think he has a different job, and we're going to discuss that in a later scene. And then Miles goes on to say if Peter will still have time for tutoring, which we all know that he means spider assignment. So now in these next few shots, we get to see some of Kraven's new faction. And as you can see right here, they're breaking into this building. Not quite sure what it is, but I do have an assumption. I want to say this is the Emily May Foundation. The reason I want to say that is because if you look at the outlook of it, you see like over here in the corner, it says the lobby. And as we have this look of Peter, we actually get a look at the background, which seems to be a laboratory. So I only assume that this is probably the Emily May Foundation. Only time will tell. But going back just a tad bit, we get to see a look at one of the enemy types that we're going to be fighting against. For this enemy type, I'm going to just call him Bear, because I feel like the name just suits him. Obviously, it's one of the brute enemies, which is kind of similar to the brutes in Miles Morales with the underground that had the little hammers. But just for the sake of it, I'm going to call him Bear. And then moving on, we get this shot of Peter, and this suit looks amazing. And they actually made one little adjustment with the suit, which is the white outlines on the red parts of the suit. And to be honest, to me, it makes the suit look so much more clean. And I'm glad that we finally get a good look at this suit with the in-game engine. It looks amazing. And then we get this nice shot of Manhattan as Peter is using his web wings over the city. And just by this shot alone, I love how quick the traversal looks and just how beautiful this game looks. But as this scene is playing right here, you also hear Peter talking to MJ.
Hey MJ, I have another name for you. Kraven. He's here on some kind of hunt.
So Peter says to MJ that he has another name for her, because as we already know that MJ is working at the Daily Bugle. So Peter is giving MJ this information, most likely for the Daily Bugle. Also, as you listen to Peter's voice, you can tell he's like sneaking around somewhere where he's not supposed to be. But what's even more interesting to me about this dialogue is how he says another name. So that makes me kind of wonder, there's another name that he's given to MJ before this, which is not just Kraven. So I kind of wonder who that would be, and I actually have an educated guess on who that might be, but we'll discuss that in a later scene. So let's keep going. And now we get to this scene with the symbiote right here. And as you can see by this overhead shot, this is straight out of the Spider-Man animated series or Spider-Man 3, where the alien crash lands on Earth. And right here you see a couple soldiers, and you see two individuals. You see this one in this left corner over here, and you see this one over here in the right. So as the scene plays on and we stop it right here, you can see these soldiers are actually working for Oscorp. So that can only mean the other two individuals are here are actually Oscorp scientists. And for this first person we get a close up right here, I have a couple assumptions who this might could be. So obviously this is a flashback of how Oscorp attained the symbiote, because as we know from Marvel Spider-Man 1 and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, that Harry was in the tank with the symbiote. So I have two assumptions who this could be right here. This could be Dr. Curtis Connors before he lost his arm, but however, I actually think this is somebody else. I actually think this man right here is Alistair Smythe, and also the other random individual that we see in the left corner, that could possibly be Spencer Smythe. Now I could be completely wrong, because this could be Curtis Connors, not sure, but I think this is Alistair Smythe. So going along a little bit further, we get more shots of Peter and Miles. Then we get this shot right here of none other than Mr. Negative himself, Martin Lee. And as you can see, the prison life has not been too good to him. As you can see, he has a beard now, he has longer hair, and just from the look of his face, it seems like everything has just gotten to him over the previous events of Marvel Spider-Man 1. And if you listen to the scene right here, you'll listen to Miles Morales say this:
"You don't know what you took from me."
And after hearing that, I just cannot wait to see how the rest of this scene plays out, because if you guys played the first game, you would know Martin Lee is actually responsible for Miles Morales' father's death. Norman Osborn was actually hosting the ceremony for Miles Morales' father, but Martin Lee was responsible for the bombing there because he wanted to take Norman Osborn out, therefore leading to the death of Miles Morales' father. So now this is actually Miles' first time being face to face with Martin Lee ever since those events. Now if you couldn't already tell, this game is going to be a way darker tone compared to the other games. And even from the San Diego Comic-Con panel, the people from Insomniac Games mentioned how every character in this game basically goes through their own darkness throughout this story. And right here, we're just getting a little glimpse of what Miles is going through, being face to face with Martin Lee for the first time, knowing that this is the man that took his father. Now looking closer in this scene, you see the shot of Miles right here, but in the background, you also see Peter helping somebody right here. So my assumption is there was actually a little breakout at the raft, and Miles and Peter had to come to the rescue. Now, as far as who caused this breakout, I'm not really too sure of. It could be Kraven, or it could be who we see in this next scene, which we get our first look of Yuri Watanabe's Wraith. And might I say, she looks amazing. Her silhouette right here is every bit of badass. Now we can't actually see her costume right here, but we see this menacing appearance that she has, and I love it. And also on the ground right here, you see to the left we actually got Peter, and on the right that looks to be MJ. Correction, that is definitely not MJ, because that is clearly a man. But as to who that may be, I'm not sure, because from the looks of it, they have blonde hair and they have this beat shirt on. So I'm not entirely sure who that is. Maybe it could be Eddie Brock, but only time will tell. So directly after that scene, we get this dialogue from Rhea Morales as she's talking to Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
All Miles talks about is how to be a better Spider-Man. How to help you.
So she goes on to say all Miles talk about is how to be a better Spider-Man and how he can help with Peter. And the only reason I can assume that he talks about that is because he doesn't want to lose Peter as he lost his father. So he wants to be the best Spider-Man he can be. And just from Rio's tone of voice, you can tell she's extremely concerned with Miles and his mental health. Because once again, during the Comic-Con panel, they go on to mention how Miles is still dealing with his dad's death and it's still a big part of everything to him. But other than that dialogue, we also get this scene right here. And from the list of it, you see Kraven's drones taking away this container. Now what's in this container, you might ask? So I believe it's a multitude of things it could be. It could be old Roxxon tech, which I'm pretty sure it's not. It could possibly be Curtis Connors, or it could be Peter himself with the symbiote. Not entirely sure, but it could be something along those lines. And before we go on, can I just acknowledge the fact of how good Peter's suit looks? Like, I already liked the advanced suit in the first game, but with the slight adjustments they made to it in this game, the suit looks almost perfect. So within these next couple of scenes, we get shots of the symbiote. But once again, I want you guys to listen to the dialogue.
What the hell's going on with Pete? He's not himself. Go help him.
So as you can see by the dialogue between Miles and MJ, Peter is not himself. The symbiote is really getting to him. But I really want to analyze this scene right here. Now, how many of you guys like MJ missions? Can I get show of hands? None? Okay, well see, me personally, I actually did not hate the MJ mission, but from this scene right here, it seems like the MJ missions could possibly make a comeback, because to me, this scene right here just looks like something out of a horror game. MJ is running away from Peter, which is something I've never seen before. But as we take a closer look at this scene and we directly focus on Peter, if you just look at Peter's appearance, you can notice the symbiote is actually evolving with him. And the reason I say this is because if you look at the spider emblem, you can see the legs are more sporadic, kind of similar to a special someone that I know. And the reason that we know the symbiote is changing this appearance because it's spending more and more time with Peter. It's getting more bonded with him, thus changing this appearance, but looking more aggressive, looking more monstrous, more horrific. And I love that because that means this game is going to have specific parts of this game where it's like horror elements to it. Because just take a look at the lighting of this, the red lighting on Peter, the blue light on MJ, and the sheer look on her face. I love this. And then in this next scene right here, we see Miles breaking into one of Kraven's bases of operation. And I say one of them because we get a look at multiple enemy types right here. And what this reminds me of is Sable bases, because if you played the first game and Miles Morales, for side content we got bases which we go infiltrate and fight a lot of different enemy types. So what I'm assuming right here, this is one of the bases. But looking at this scene a little bit more, if we stop it right here, we get a look at multiple different enemy types. We get a look at regular hunters, we get a look at dual swordsmen, we get a look at brutes, and we get a look at heavily armored brutes, and we also get a look at archers over here. So just from Kraven's fashion, this scene we have a lot of different enemy types we're going to be going against, and that makes me even more ecstatic about this game because that means we're just going to have much more combat mechanics when it comes to this game. So within this next scene right here, we actually see Peter fighting the lizard, and of course we can assume this is directly after we get that line from the gameplay trailer where Peter is talking about that he wants to go after the lizard himself, and then that leads into this boss fight right here. And as you can see by the visuals alone, that the lizard's roar is making the symbiote uncomfortable. It's making the symbiote feel unpleasant.
That was unpleasant.
Oh great, now he's mad.
And that's probably where we get introduced to the first weakness of the symbiote, which is sound. And looking at the scene a little bit more, it seemed like the symbiote is really starting to take over Peter at this point in the game because the tendrils are wrapped around the lizard's neck and it seems like he's trying to kill him. And as we know, Peter Parker will not do that. He wants to help Connor so we can help Harry. So moving along, we get a nice shot of Kraven right here, and then we get the scene of Peter and Harry, which from the look of it, it seems like they're in Queens. And we also got an Oscar helicopter right here, was pretty interesting. But once again, listen to dialogue, we hear Harry say this.
This was our dream.
Harry says to Peter, this was our dream, which in that first scene, how he says to Peter that they can heal the world, so I can only assume that's it's Peter right here. But I feel like there's an underlying tone right here when he said this is our dream. I don't think he's talking about him and Peter's dream. I want to say he's talking about him and his mother, or it could be an underlying tone with him and Venom. But make sure you guys leave your thoughts in the comments below. And then we get to this next scene right here where we see Harry walking with a cane. I can only assume that this is later in the game where sickness actually starts to catch his back up to him after he's quote unquote healed. So I'm assuming as his sickness is catching back up to him again, it's when he rebonds with the symbiote. But nonetheless, let's continue to move on. So next we get this quick shot of Peter doing some type of spike attack. But if you slow it down just a little bit before he actually gets the attack off, we see Harry back here in the background. Now I'm not quite sure what's going on. It seemed like they got ambushed by Kraven's faction maybe, or Peter came to Harry's rescue, or either Harry and Peter are analyzing the symbiote and maybe Harry knows Peter's identity. But it's just a moment I wanted to highlight because we got Peter and Harry present in the scene right here. And can I just go back and say that the graphics look absolutely amazing again? Just because look at the symbiote right here, man. Like, it's even hard to look at Peter right here. He looks disgusting and menacing. I love it. Over the next few shots, we get this shot of MJ right here, and then we get this shot of Miles right here doing some kind of mega Venom blast, but with his new evolved powers. But what I want to highlight in this scene right here, if we slow it down, first thing we see is kind of like this little cage slash prison. At first, I wanted to assume that it was just Kraven's hunters just watching what Miles do. However, I see a lot of different body types, a lot of different builds. And from the list of it, I want to say that it's villains. Because if we go back to Kraven's reveal trailer, and we go back and look at that tablet, then we go down to different lists of characters. And I believe that all those characters that were shown were actually potential targets for Kraven to hunt. Which leads me into the gameplay trailer with this dialogue between Peter and Miles right here.
Miles, the hunters tracked Connors to the Harlem Fish Market.
Lizard.
I'm on it. Sounds like Kraven's checking off his.
We don't have much time. Move.
So I believe that that is actually a small prison of some of the victims that Kraven has hunted already. So I think this spot is actually the main base of operations. And also in this scene right here, it seems we got another new enemy type, which has this like body armor on them, which I can assume that it kind of works like the Symbiote agents in the first game where they had body armor on them and they took a little bit extra damage, but it could be different. So moving on, we got this next scene right here between Harry and Norman. And man, I think this is probably my favorite scene out of the story trailer alone, because actually seeing Norman talk to his son and how much we've seen that he cared about him in that first game. And normally in the comics or any adaptation, Norman doesn't really care for Harry that much. Like, he cares for him, but not that much. So seeing this right here, it's just something different that you can really tell how much he cares for his son by this line right here. He says,
I'm not going to lose him.
but yeah, man, just to harp on this scene a little bit more, I love the lighting. We got the symbiote in the back, and I'm assuming this is when Oscorp actually get the symbiote back in their possession. And the reason I say that is because of the dialogue when Norman said, I'm not going to lose you. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, that seems like Harry's sickness is catching back up on him. So what I'm assuming is the symbiote actually ended up bonding with Harry, maybe sometime later in the scene. But moving along forward, we get to see some of Harry's aggression.
You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
But with these last few scenes that I'm about to talk about are the scenes that make this one fan theory maybe actually be true. So in this scene right here, we get this nice overview shot of Manhattan. We got Harry right here, and you can tell it's Harry because from the last scene, like, he has these exact same attire on, the gray shirt, and you can tell it's his hair and stuff like that. We get to listen to Tony Todd's Venom, and we hear him say this.
We're going to kill the world.
Now at first myself, I thought Venom said we are going to kill the world, but he actually said we are going to heal the world, which is the thing that Harry says to Peter early on in this trailer. So to me, that means Harry is the host of the symbiote. But we know how Insomniac likes to do in these story trailers, or just in general, with misdirection. This could be a bit misdirection, but that's not what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is how we're spending so much time just with Harry and what's going on in his story, to the point where I feel like he's that third playable character. And not only is he that third playable character, with him being the host of the Venom symbiote, I think that popular fan theory actually might be true, that Venom is playable in Marvel's Spider-Man 2. And now with everything being said that I said, let me know how you guys feel down in the comment section below, and what are your theories about this game from this story trailer alone right here. And also make sure you leave a like on the video if I highlighted anything you didn't notice at first in the story trailer. And make sure you're here on October 20th when the game actually launches, because I will be playing the game all the way through, doing a whole entire playthrough on this channel. Thank you guys so much for sticking all the way around, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I will see you guys in the next video. I'm holla at you.